Hello, I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and welcome to Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration. Today, we share the story of a mother, alcohol, and a family torn apart. After several years of sobriety, our guest, Marlene, is finally able to talk about the alcohol abuse that led to the loss of her children, her road to sobriety, and the lessons that she's learned. Sadly, she's not alone, as alcohol has a history of destroying relationships and families. Now, we're also going to have a special guest, Penny, to talk about what some of the numbers are behind the problems with alcohol in Iowa. But first, we'll start with Marlene so she can share us a story that she hopes helps shine a light on healthy choices for other people that face serious challenges with alcohol. Marlene, welcome to the show. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
Thank you, Peter. Hi, my name's Marlene, and I didn't come into the rooms of AA or to alcoholism early in life like a lot of people that I'm friends with. I was 42 before I got arrested for the first time ever, and it was an OWI. And I didn't feel that I was an alcoholic. I felt like I was just in a bad place, the wrong time. But subsequently, when I went to my court appearances for that OWI, both times I was arrested for public intox. But I went to treatment, and it was not a treatment that I was introduced to AA. There wasn't accountability. So I pretty much just skated through it, didn't have any trouble during my probation, and felt like, okay, it was kind of overcorrected. They kind of just made a mistake. So I slowed down on my drinking and felt like I was being super mom again. I was not somebody who would ever ask for help. And that was a major downfall. That was something that was my ego and my fear that somebody would think I was doing things wrong because I'm asking for help. And so I tried to continue to always do things on my own and be a single mom. And I didn't have a lot of other resources. I had family, but they didn't always know when I needed help because I didn't let them know that I needed help. And I eventually surrounded myself with friends and a boyfriend who drank like I did. And so my drinking seemed normal. And before I knew it, when I wanted to stop, I couldn't. And eventually there was a time that I didn't get up on time for picking up my youngest son from school. And I was an hour late. So of course they had a school safety officer there to make sure everything was okay. And the school had of course, everybody knew I was an alcoholic before I did. Everybody's seen it before I did, but they had their safety patrol there to do a breathalyzer before they would let my son come with me. And I'd walked up to the school. I didn't have a vehicle or a car or a license at that time. So I walked up there and felt I'd taken a 2-hour nap. And when they offered me a breathalyzer, that's funny. They gave me the chance to take a breathalyzer, and I felt that at that time I'd taken a couple-hour nap and I'd walked up to the school a few blocks. I was going to be fine. And I blew a .385 and didn't go home with my children. I went to jail and for public intox, and my kids went to foster care. And so during that year, after they went to foster care, I tried to get sober on my own. I would make it a few weeks and I would celebrate that, okay, I'm not an alcoholic. I can go ahead and have a drink. And prior to that, I had started having detoxes. And at one time I did have a severe detox where I had a seizure and went to the hospital. And that scared me, but not enough to completely quit. And I tried to look up online how to drink safely and how to drink moderately. And I wanted to still be able to drink. It didn't seem normal to me to not be able to drink. My parents weren't alcoholics. My sisters aren't alcoholics. Nobody in my immediate family was alcoholics. My grandpa made the wine for the church and had a bar in his basement, and everybody drank normal. And so I didn't think that I could be an alcoholic, or that I could have, like they say, went from cucumber to pickle and couldn't find my way back. And I struggled with quitting on my own. And when my kids were in foster care, I was blessed with them being with a foster parent who had grown up with an alcoholic father, and who would tell me his story when I would call her and she knew I wasn't sober, and would just give me bits and pieces of what my future and what she felt like as a child of an alcoholic. And that mostly the guilt the shame that she had for not being able to help her father. I never thought that my kids felt that. I didn't think I was hurting anybody but myself. And so being kind of what they call 12-stepped and to going to AA and to treatment was done by the woman who was fostering my kids at the time. And so eventually I did go to treatment at Powell and completed treatment. And they hung on to me for a while, waiting for the judge to make her decision because we'd gone to the termination hearing already. And COVID had shut down courts, so it took a lot longer than normal. It was 7 months from the time we went to court for the termination hearing to the time that the judge made the decision. I was sober 9 months when the judge terminated my rights. And I watched my kids get adopted on court TV. And I chose to log into an AA meeting immediately afterwards instead of walking up and getting a drink, because I wasn't going to get any relationship with my children drinking again. And I had already learned that.
Well, that was very powerful what you shared so far and very brave. We're going to take a short break, catch our breath, and we'll continue the conversation. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
Malware and bots and worms, oh my. The wild, wild web can be a scary and complex place. And as our digital world expands, so too are the threats. Watch out, Trojan horse. That's why at MediaCom, we take security very seriously and monitor our networks around the clock to stop threats before they can affect you. Not today, rude kid. Not all internet is created equal. We build ours to keep you connected and protected.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all, if I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. We're talking about alcohol abuse, the journey from the brink of disaster, the process of recovery and healing. And we often forget when we talk about alcohol that this is a fairly wide-ranging problem. Penny joins us today to talk about really how big a problem adult drinking is in Iowa. Penny, introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about this issue.
Well, my name is Penny Seidenkrantz, and I work for Employee and Family Resources, and I am a grant coordinator for what's called the PFS PAM grant, that is Partnership for Success to Prevent Alcohol Misuse. And what this grant looks at is adult drinking age 45 and up, which has become a serious problem that people aren't aware of. They look at drinking as a young person's problem. The goal of this grant is to help to reduce the number of alcohol-related deaths of those 45 and over, and also to decrease the number of emergency room visits by that age group also.
Penny, what have we seen in terms of trends? Is this something that's been getting better, worse, stayed about the same?
Well, it's gotten worse because the population in Iowa is aging. Because of the baby boomers, and that population has reached their 60s, and then that population right behind them has reached into their 40s. All these people didn't start drinking at the age of 45, so we're not just looking at that. We're looking at the fact that they started at a younger age. Unlike Marlene, who took her first drink at a later age, a lot of these folks started as teens and grew up with a family where alcohol was the norm. Alcohol today is the leading cause of preventable death in the U.S.
Yeah, I know we hear about the ramifications of long-term drinking are pretty, not just psychologically big and mental health-wise big, but physical health. People are dying from long-term alcohol use and abuse. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. Liver disease, cancer, strokes, high blood pressure, all of those are precipitated with the use of alcohol, heavy alcohol drinking. Now we talk about heavy drinking. We don't try to prevent drinking at all. what we propose is for responsible drinking. And responsible drinking is not binge drinking or heavy drinking. Heavy drinking has led to also immediate consequences such as car accidents, drowning, falls. In a US study recently, 40% of all those that were in a violent interaction, 40% of them had alcohol in their bloodstream at the time of this violent attack or violent interaction that they had. Recently, I interviewed a police officer in Ankeny, and he said probably 90% of the domestic violent calls that they went out to involved alcohol.
That's fascinating. I know we've had guests on the show that say people that have opioid addictions and meth addictions, often the first substance they ever used was alcohol. Alcohol and marijuana are the two first use substances that everybody admits to. You know, while we're here, Marlene, I want to ask your opinion on something, because I know in the prevention community, we often talk about starting and stopping, you know, and then this place in the middle called moderation. But moderation doesn't work for everybody, does it?
No, I have I compare my drinking career to my my work career, very sporadic. I drank when I was a little bit when I was in high school, but not much. I wasn't a fan of it. I wanted to do well in school. I was an overachiever in school. And then there was in my 20s, of course, there was ladies' nights, and I would take part in that. And I didn't notice that I didn't drink like my friends did. I would be in line for a refill because they were free when I was at a half a glass because I didn't want to hit empty. But then when I had children, got married, my husband didn't drink. We didn't have alcohol in the house. So I didn't drink for a long period of time during that either. And there was many times that I would drink and then I wouldn't drink. And then it was when I didn't realize that alcoholism and a lot of binge drinking happens in the background, and it keeps building and it doesn't go away, and it's there. And every time you start, you don't start fresh like the slate is clean. It's still, you have that history in your body and in your brain, and it's the compulsion to keep going gets to the point where you can't stop. And I wasn't always that way, but it got to that point from continuous binge drinking, drank myself into it.
You know, Penny, Marlene was really brave. She took control of her life with a little help from the legal system, getting her steered in the right direction, NAA. But how hard is it to talk to adults about drinking problems? Because I think even myself, I'd be stubborn about somebody else telling me what I should and shouldn't do, and that I can't control what I might be doing and that kind of stuff. What are you running into when you talk to people out there?
Well, that's the situation. Just what you're saying is people are resistant to hear that. People don't look at adults as drinking too much. What they look at them is they just can't control what they're drinking, and they don't binge drink. They don't do heavy drinking. They just drink, and it's legal, which is something that we run into a lot. It is a legal substance. You can buy it anywhere. You can buy it at Quick Trip. You can buy it at any convenience store now.
Yeah, and that accessibility is part of the problem. We're going to take another short break, and we come back. We're going to continue to discuss alcohol abuse, recovery, and some of the issues that cut right to the core of a mother's ability to survive and how to establish a path to sobriety. Marlene, I'm really interested in hearing how you're able to turn that corner. See you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove.
You told me not to do drugs.
You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
Welcome back to Surviving Bad. I'm your host, Peter Komendowski, and our guests, Marlene and Penny, are here to talk about Marlene's story as a mom that's trying to help others in the face of what she survived as the challenge of alcohol, its power to destroy lives, and now to reestablish both connections with her kids and her life in what's soon to be her third year of sobriety, if I guessed right. Is that right, Marlene?
I'm almost 4 years of sobriety. I've got 3.5 years.
Well, congratulations. Talk to us about how you went from the bottom and turned the corner to recovery.
Treatment was it was beneficial to me because it educated me with the compulsion and what was going on in my brain. I was ignorant to the facts of a lot of things that have to do with the way alcohol and all drugs. I've quit smoking 3 months ago, and it's the same type of thing. Your brain chemistry is changed by it, and it's you have to be a real educated and know what's going on in your brain to be able to fix it. And been working through the steps and with other people. It's being able to talk, because if you don't talk about it, you'll drink over it, is what it's usually what ends up happening. But I've established with friendships, made new friends that through the sobriety community in Iowa. There's amazing sobriety community in Des Moines, and continued working with the foster parents, and who the foster parents were the ones that adopted my boys. They were 7 and 11 when they were taken from me, and they're now 11 and 16. And I've been in their life continuously. 2 years ago, we didn't do anything at the when they were first adopted, or a year after because of COVID, but we did have a barbecue to kind of introduce my family, the boys' family, from my side of the family and to their side of the family, so that it's the boys, it's not much different than if a divorce happened, that they have two moms and a dad and multiple grandparents and aunts and uncles. And I continue to be a part of their life and continue to help make decisions and raise them and work through the issues that they have that are part of being a product of an alcoholic mom of no fault of their own, because they do have trauma that they did live with because of my actions and my things I did that I wouldn't have done otherwise as a parent when I was drinking. But I've managed to still maintain a relationship with my children and continue to build it, and hope that moving forward, that when they get to be adults, that I'll still continue to have that. And it's not the kind of relationship I dreamt or ever wanted when I had my children. I don't have holidays that I'm getting to make traditions with right now with my 11-year-old, but just knowing that he's in a good place and that I do get to be part of his life, and that someday we can make traditions and there will be grandkids, and my oldest son is still part of their lives as well, and that they've always welcomed him as part of their household. He's 22, and so it's a little different with him being in Omaha and having his own life, but it's to be able to incorporate that and still be a part of my kid's life and still know that I'm still their mom. And the state took them from me, and they changed the name on their birth certificate for who their mom is, but they didn't remove my DNA, and they didn't remove the stretch marks or anything else either. So they can still be my kids, and just in a different way. And I'm blessed. I get to share them with two amazing people that have welcomed me into their life and allow me to be part of their life, because it would have been very easy for them to just tell me no, that they adopted them and that I didn't have rights to them any longer. And that's reality. But me staying sober is the key to me staying in my children's lives and being not to where I am a toxic part of their life. And
well, not only did you have really good fortune, but you also made the investment to use that good fortune for the right reasons, to find sobriety and to reconnect with the kids. So, God bless that great luck of those wonderful people being there and the effort that you made to find the path to sobriety. Penny, I have a question for you. One of the key things that Marlene shared with us was that she changed the people who were in her life, got the toxic people away, made new friends, connected with a sober community. Now, in your work in the communities to try and deal with alcohol use and abuse, a lot of times people have to really have a heavy loss or run into some major problems to start changing their friends and connections to stay away from the problem. How do you deal with this as an advocate for responsible habits in the community when you know people are often surrounded by bad influences?
Well, you often hear in treatment, different playmates, different playgrounds. There is nothing that is truer than that statement. You have to find a sober community. You have to find sober friends. If you're going to family functions where there is alcohol going to be used, you've got to deal with that, and you've got to talk to your family and see if they will have events that don't include alcohol. I know I have a step grandson who his mother refused to not have alcohol at his wedding, and they canceled the wedding because of it. And going to hold it at a different date. But this was an alcoholic mom who gets very belligerent when she is intoxicated. And so it affects families in many ways. And in order to be sober, like Marlene, like she said, you have to find people that can support you and that also are maybe going through the same thing. I feel like I haven't gone through that, so I can't be a mentor to her, but I feel like she can be a mentor to others because of what she has gone through.
Well, there's no doubt, and her bravery speaks to that. Now we're going to take a little break, and we're going to ask both Penny and Marlene to come back and share some final comments, insights, inspirations, things they feel they can share with other people, other moms out there that can maybe give them a course correction if they see something happening that might be dangerous. We'll see you all after the break. You don't want to miss this.
Watching MC22 is now easier than ever before. All Mediacom customers can watch local programming online anytime. Go to mc22.net, click Watch MC22, and log in with your Mediacom account. Not a Mediacom cable subscriber? Mediacom internet or phone subscribers can watch too. Your local programming leader, MC22, online at mc22.net/watch.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Welcome back. Today on Surviving Bad, we're sharing a story of a mother, alcohol, and her family being torn apart, but also what she's done to recover and now learn how to help and inspire people. We invite both Penny and Marlene to share some advice for you. And let's see what they have to say that may help you or a friend deal with a difficult situation. Marlene, for you, what warning signs? I mean, you can't go back in time, but maybe there were some warning signs before all the problems hit the fan that maybe you'd advise other people to recognize so they could try and do a course correction before things get out of hand.
When you start noticing that you prefer to do activities and avoid activities based on whether or not there's going to be alcohol present. I didn't realize I did that, but I would look when I went even going to things with my kids and they wanted to go to a ballpark. Oh, I wonder if that ballpark serves alcohol. Most people don't worry about whether or not there's going to be alcohol present or whether or not they're going to need to get alcohol before they go. And to me, that didn't seem abnormal, but in retrospect, it really is. And if you talk to other people about your drinking and justify it, you look a little deeper, because most people don't need to justify their drinking either, because it's normal to want to have a drink and have a drink on the weekend, but it's not normal to have a drink at the restaurant and then have to stop and get a half gallon of vodka to make it through the rest of the weekend.
Oh, that makes really good sense. Penny, you're out there talking to people about alcohol use and abuse. How do you counsel people to deal with what might be excessive or binge drinking?
Well, first of all, Peter, I don't think people realize what binge drinking is. They think it's something that teenagers do on the weekend and go out for a bender and get drunk, and then that's the end of it. What it actually is defined, it's 4 or more drinks in one occasion for a woman and 5 or more drinks for a man. That's actually what constitutes binge drinking. And I found myself that here in Des Moines, there are many events where you can go up and you buy alcohol and you ask them, how many can I get? And they, as many as you can carry. So what I would warn people is when you go to those events and it's as many as you can carry away, don't carry away as many as you can. Take one drink and consume that and wait an hour. There should be an hour between drinks, and also stop yourself before it's time to go home. An hour before. A lot of sporting events will do that. They'll stop at the last quarter, the last inning, serving alcohol, which is a good practice to have. And I would say that use that as a practice for yourself. I'm not telling people not to drink, but drink responsibly. Then don't get behind the wheel of a car. I mean, you never know. I guarantee the people that have died or have killed somebody when they got behind the wheel of a car intoxicated never intended for that to happen.
You know, Marlene, I have a question for you. You grew up and you didn't use alcohol much until you were an adult. But if you could go back and talk to kids in high school, middle school, what would you tell them? Because some of them might have parents that are drinking at home and they don't know how to deal with it. What advice would you give them?
That alcohol is something that a mood stabilizer, and it's going to change your mood temporarily. And, you know, if you're just needing to unwind and that's what you choose to do, that's fine. But if you don't have any other resources ever, and that's your only resource to unwind is to change your mood by a substance, then you might want to look at outside sources as counseling, because normally drinking is merely a symptom of other things. You're using it to cover up something or to avoid something. And so if it's not going to go away with drinking, but it's usually a symptom of something else. There's usually, when you're a teenager, you're trying to fit in, but it's also a matter of everybody else is trying to drink because they're not comfortable with themselves when they're sober. And being comfortable with yourself needs to be comfortable with yourself, whether you're sober or not.
I think that's a great message. And I thank you both very much for joining us. It's so important for people to understand that this alcohol that we don't pay a lot of attention to is very, very dangerous. It's a high risk behavior and it can break families apart. And I really admire your bravery. Marlene, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And Penny, for sharing your story and the work you do in the community. And for everybody that's watching today, thank you. Check out our website at healthyiowa.org and keep your eye on MediaCom MC22 for our next episode of Surviving Bad, where we explore stories of survival, hope, and inspiration on MediaCom MC22, your local programming leader.